Hello again, everyone. This week I will be talking about Phoenix sports teams, so the Phoenix Coyotes, Arizona Coyotes of the NHL, as well as the Phoenix Suns of the NBA. The Suns are who I am going to be talking about today. Looking at the Suns, this past season they had a 39-42 record. They do play in the Pacific Division in the Western Conference. Obviously, the Western Conference, as I've spoken in numerous posts, is the more elite conference than the Eastern Conference when you look at it. And the Pacific is also a pretty tough division that the Suns play in because you got the Warriors and the Clippers both in that division, which could easily make up the Western Conference final, having two teams from the same division coming up in the Western Conference final if the Warriors and the Clippers advance in their playoff series right now. You also have the Kings and the Lakers in that division. The Lakers, obviously, you're going to have a very early draft pick and could start to turn it around now. Talks are Rondo might be going to the Lakers, so we'll see if that happens. And then the Kings are also kind of one of those bubble teams that I think are also going to be able to turn it around this upcoming season. With the Suns' record at 39-42, playing in that division, playing in the Western Conference, does make it tough for them to make it into the playoffs. With that kind of a record, if they played in the East, they'd be a number 6 seed kind of thing. So it does come a lot. A lot does come down to what division you play in, what conference you play in, that kind of stuff. If they played in the Atlantic Division in the East, they could probably win the division with a record like that. I know this past year the Raptors had a great season and did win that division, but if the Suns played in the Atlantic Division with a 39-42 record, they'd probably be second in the division this past year, kind of thing. And there's some divisions in the East that they could probably win with a 500 record, or at least bare minimum, maybe not win the division in the East, but they'd be in the playoffs for sure if they were playing the East, and probably not just squeaking into the playoffs. They'd be a number 6 seed, like I said at the beginning. They did make a lot of trades throughout the regular season, and I do think that of the big four sports, team chemistry is the most important when it comes to basketball. You will find teams who get star players and make big acquisitions in the offseason, and now they're championship caliber and they're championship contending before the season even starts. Most recently, we can look at the Cavs bringing back LeBron James and signing Kevin Love and all those situations, and you think instantly they're a contender. They're going to have a 50-win season, no problem. And those thoughts happen for sure. But for me, I think the NBA team chemistry is the most important, because you have 82 games to make the most out of it, to try to make the playoffs, and that's what makes it tough. Is you need time to have your team mesh and have your team meld, in order to be successful. You do have preseason, obviously. You have the off season. You have team workouts. You have practices. You have all that stuff, so the team can work. But until you get into game situations, I think it takes at least the first 15, 20 games of a season for players to really mesh. Even if you're great talents, you can't just put three great talents together and say, go win us a championship. Well, it doesn't necessarily work that way. It can, but they need time to get to know each other's tendencies, where you're going to be on the court when this play happens, what do you expect out of each other, and those kind of situations. And it takes the first quarter of the season for that to happen. So in your first 20 games, if you have big names that you've signed to your team and stuff, if you can find a way to go 500, I think that would be a success. You're not going to see teams get a bunch of stars and start off the season at 16-4 or something. It's not going to happen, because they don't have that chemistry. They haven't bonded. They haven't found a connection with each other yet. But if you can go 10-10, then after those first 20 games, now they found each other. They get to know each other a little more. They know each other's tendencies, what to expect out of one another. The last 2/3 of the season, the last 3/4 of the season, they're gonna find success and probably make the playoffs. But with the Suns, like I said, they made a lot of trades and picked up a lot of players. Bullock they picked up, Granger they picked up, Thornton they picked up in the trade with the Celtics when they traded Thomas to the Celtics, who had been playing well in Boston. So I think he'll have a great career in Boston if he stays around there for a while. Picking up Thornton, they also got a first-round pick in 2016. A lot of the trades that they did make were with three-team deals, so when they picked up Granger and Solomons, they also got a first-round pick in 2017 and 2019. That was a three-team deal with the Heat and the Pelicans. When they picked up Knight, they also got Marshall in a three-team deal with the Bucks and the Sixers, and then they got Bullock in a three-team deal with the Clippers and the Celtics. They did pick up Wright as well, for a first round pick. So they're giving up first round picks, but it's also important to know that in 2016 they got a first round pick, 2017 a first round pick, 2019 a first round pick, and they're not one of those teams that needs to be in a rebuild. I think with Eric Bledsoe and Brandon Knight, you have a great guard combination there. You have a 1-2 punch, I think, in your guard positions with those two guys. Bledsoe just drafted back in 2010, and Knight just drafted back in 2011, so they're still young. Bledsoe this past year averaged 17.1 points per game, 5.2 boards, 6.1 assists, and then Knight averaged 13.4 points with a couple boards and 4.5 assists. So if your two guards can go out there and combine for 30, 35 points a night, and you get your forwards to step up and you find a big man down low, I think that's kind of what the Suns are lacking, is a good, solid big man down low. They do have Len, who just had his second year in the league. He was just born in 93. He's a center. He's still young, obviously. He only averaged 6.3 points per game, but he also averaged 6.6 boards, and that led the team. So if the person leading your team in rebounds per game is only at 6.6, that's going to make it difficult for a team to make the playoffs and have success, unless you have 3 or 4 other guys that also average 6.5 boards a night kind of thing. Then that's okay, but I think they need to find a guy who isn't necessarily going to be 20 points a night kind of thing, but if he chips in with, can get the 9-10 boards a night kind of thing, and if he chips in with 10-12 points, that's great. I think the points would kind of be an added bonus. I think they do need to find a guy who can be a presence in the paint and can get the rebounds for them, because Bledsoe and Knight can definitely score. Obviously, the Morris brothers are going to be around for a little while. Markieff averaged 15.4 points per game with 6.1 boards. And then the other Morris brother, I'm blanking on his first name, I apologize. He had 10.4 points per game with 4.8 boards. So they have players there that can get the points and can be successful. It's just they need to find a big man, I think, down low, who can control the paint and be a presence on the boards, because I just don't think they have that player now who can be a presence for rebounding. Of course, Len Morris and the Morris brothers, they're still young. Len is just his second year in the league. The Morris brothers were just drafted back in 2011, so they're still young, they're still growing. If Len and Morris can step up and find a way to get 8.6 and 8.1 rebounds kind of thing, step it up by a couple of rebounds per game, then you might be okay. But I think the easiest thing to do is try to find somebody through free agency. Like I said, you almost had a 500 record, so you're not in a rebuild. So free agents might be looking to go to a team like the Suns. The only thing that I think is going to be hard for them to attract free agents is you're playing in the Pacific with the Warriors and the Clippers. It's going to be tough for you to win a division. It's going to be tough for you to get a high playoff seeding kind of thing. Purely based on those two teams being in your division, you're going to play them a lot. But I do think the Suns have the talent that even in the West, they could make the playoffs next year for sure. I think that's just, they need to find that piece who can control the paint. Like I said, Bledsoe and Knight can be great guys at their guard positions. The Morris brothers can be some solid forwards for years to come. PJ Tucker, obviously he had 6.4 boards this past year. Wright had 7 points per game with 4.9 boards. Green, he had 11.9 points per game. So you have guys who can make a contribution and can find ways to win. I think Bledsoe and Knight and Morris are kind of your 3 lockdown starters for next year. Bledsoe and Knight can easily be your 2 starting guards, and they can be solid starting guards. I think Bledsoe and Knight would be starting guards on other NBA teams. I think that's the other thing you look at is who are your starters. Would they be starters on other teams? And if they would, then that's good. You have talent on your team. If you look at, he's our starter, but if he was playing on other teams, he might be the 7th or 8th guy off the bench. Then that's clearly a position you need to upgrade. But I think they're fine in the guard position. I think their forward position they're okay at, but their biggest one they need to upgrade is definitely their center position and finding a guy who can control the paint and get some boards for them. So good luck to the Suns in this upcoming season. Hopefully they have an active off season, an active summer, and we'll see what happens when the next season rolls around, and hopefully they can make the playoffs next year. Thanks again all for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at GM614. I will be talking to you tomorrow about the Arizona Coyotes of the NHL. Bye.